Thank you so much, Michael. And it's really an honor to be with all of you. And it's such a gift to be able to share, bring the Faber Center to all of you today. This is the first time I've been back in this space since March, and I imagine that's the same for many of you who are familiar with this space. So as Christine and Michael mentioned, my name is Carolyn Swabeck. At Marquette, I'm the director of the Trinity Fellows Program. I'm also a student of Ignatian spirituality and a student of yoga, and also a yoga instructor. And actually, it was through going through the exercises that led me to seek out if anybody was combining a yoga practice and Ignatian spirituality. And lo and behold, I found a group of combined group of lay people and Jesuits who were talking about this and doing things. And 2.5 years later, I'm on the core team, and we're seeking to perhaps branch out into our own organization. Right now, we are part of the Midwest province of Jesuits. And I just want to give a little bit of a background for those of you who might not be familiar with what Ignatian yoga is, which is probably most of you. So as I said, we're a collaborative ministry, and we seek to integrate the spirituality of St. Ignatius of Loyola and yoga philosophy, both of which are extremely deep and rich traditions. And so in our programs, and right now we're doing all of our programming virtually, we invite participants to experience God's presence through movement, prayer, and spiritual conversation. And so all of us involved in Ignatian yoga are committed to studying and teaching the integration of Ignatian spirituality and yoga, while also upholding the tradition and depth of both traditions on their own. And so we really seek to explore, and we believe that the partnership of these two can really be helpful to heal, deepen, and transform one's life in relationship with God. And there are 3 kind of defining characteristics that we seek to highlight in our program, which is dialogical learning, asana as embodied examen, which is something that we'll be going through today, and then yoga nidra and Ignatian contemplation, which I'll be introducing to you in a later session. But yoga nidra is a deep, restorative, relaxive meditation technique, also known as yogic sleep. And then real quickly, for those of you who are not familiar with the practice of yoga, asana, which is the movement, the physical practice of yoga, is one of 8 limbs of yoga. And it's a philosophy that can be translated as to yoke or to unite. And the classical definition of yoga from the Yoga Sutras says that yoga is the restraint of movements of the mind. And it's a tradition that seeks to help liberate create union between all beings on earth. And there's a lot of really beautiful connections that can be made between Ignatian spirituality and yoga. So I'm really excited to lead this practice. And without further ado, we'll just get right into it. As we were thinking about the theme for this series, gratitude obviously is where we landed. And as Michael said, it's really the foundation of Ignatian spirituality. And I like to think of gratitude as the hearth, the place that really welcomes people in, and the place where we can really ground and center in our relationship with divine mystery, with God, with spirit. And so a very clear starting point is gratitude for creation. And it's kind of auspicious that it's also, we're now moving into the season of fall, which is also a very large time for gratitude practice. The harvest season, colors, there's a lot of, nature is just shouting to be noticed and embraced. And so I think it's a very appropriate time for us to be thinking specifically about gratitude for creation. And with that gratitude for creation comes a responsibility of care, right? There is an interdependence that exists between all beings, and that it is such a gift to be in communion with creation, but also, especially as humans, we have a responsibility to care for our common home. And as we acknowledge and live into that responsibility, there's a sense of oneness and of union, because perhaps you recognize that there's a divinity, there's a spark of divinity within each and every one of us. And we're all part of this divine mystery that is creation. So, and I also want to, I guess, briefly mention, I've been reading a lot of Robin Wall Kimmerer, particularly finishing Braiding Sweetgrass, which if you're looking to read more about how you can bring that indigenous knowledge and scientific knowledge of creation and further your understanding, it's a really beautiful book. But there's a place where she talks about the radical notion of gratitude, that if we live in gratitude every day, we recognize our wealth, and we recognize that we have more than enough, that there's an ethic of fullness that is particularly a radical concept in a country like the United States. And so just centering on knowing that we have more than enough in creation to not only care for ourselves, but care for one another is, I think, a really beautiful concept. And I'll begin officially this practice by just invoking a land acknowledgement. And this one comes from the UWM Electa Quinney Institute, but there are many land acknowledgements, and I'll try to share different ones each session. But today we acknowledge in Milwaukee that we are on traditional Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee homeland along the southwest shores of Michigami, North America's largest system of freshwater lakes, where the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnic rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present. And with that, I invite you, if you're not there already, to just find a comfortable seat on the floor, maybe propped up on a cushion, and let your shoulders relax from your ears and release your jaw. Maybe close your eyes if that's a comfortable place to be, and just start to become aware of your body in space and of your breath as it moves in and out through your body, just kind of like the source of all creation, if you think about it. And as you settle, start to begin to give thanks to the divine mystery for creation and being wonderfully made. And center yourself in the midst of God, who is the God of unconditional love and infinite creativity. Imagine how this God of love created the beauty of the universe. And as you settle yourself in gratitude, perhaps you would like to ask for the grace to see creation as God does, to see the world in its infinite goodness, diversity, and interconnectedness, and above all, to give thanks for it. So in a moment, I'll invite you to come to stand on your mat. And today our asana practice is going to focus on grounding poses. And so as we move, I invite you to review your day in relation to your awareness of creation, perhaps asking where you were present, where did you notice beauty, and how did you act out of a duty of or responsibility for the gift of creation. So above all, noticing what's arising in you, and I will join you on your mats in just a second. Okay. So finding your feet, maybe hips width distance or a little bit wider on your mat. And just start to flex and curl your toes, maybe rocking the weight forward and back to really get a sense of where your feet are landing and how the floor is supporting you. And then maybe slow the rocks down, maybe start to come to a place of stillness. And imagine that your feet are growing roots into the ground. As they do, imagine that your spine is lifting all the way up to the sky, feeling stabilized by the roots and allowing your body to grow taller and taller. Take a few rolls of the shoulders back. And then maybe tilt your chin down and rock your head gently from side to side. And then slowly lifting your chin back up. On your next inhale, lift your hands up above your head. And pause here, pressing the soles of your feet down as you reach your fingertips all the way up to the ceiling. And then bring your hands together in a prayer and bring hands down to heart center. And we'll do that again. Inhale, circling the arms up, taking up lots of space. Maybe bring your gaze up to the sky and then exhale, hands to the heart. One more time, inhale, extend and lift the arms up, keeping the arms here. And then in your exhale, bring your left hand down, your right arm lifts up and over and take a side bend. And we'll do both sides, so if left and right is a place of confusion for you, don't worry, we'll even it all out. Inhale, both arms lift. And then exhale, for me it's my right arm, the opposite arm down, and lift the top arm up and over. And then inhale, both arms lift. Exhale, bring them behind your back and either interlace your fingers or maybe just grab your forearms and start to draw your arms down, shoulders down, maybe arching the spine a little bit, rolling shoulders back. And then release your hands, bring them together in front of you, interlace your fingers, and press your palms away as you slightly round into your upper back. Maybe your chin comes down to your chest. And then release your hands down alongside your hips. Again, feeling the foundation. This is called Tadasana, mountain pose, the very foundational pose in all asana practice. Inhale, circle your arms up to the sky. And on your exhale, open your arms out wide. Start to bend your knees, bend into your hips as you start to fold forward. And bend your knees as much as you need to be able to bring your fingertips either down onto the mat, or if you have blocks or books around you, to bring books underneath your hands. And then release your head so that you can shake your head yes and shake your head no. Maybe your abdomen comes to rest on your thighs, feeling the support of your body here. Bring your hands either to your shins or maybe to your thighs and press your spine out and away from you. So elongate your spine parallel to the floor. On your exhale, refold. And then on your inhale, bend into the knees and slowly roll yourself all the way up to stand. Hands come up above the head, palms come together to touch, and exhale, hands to heart center. Again, inhale, circle the arms. Exhale, hinge forward, bend knees, bend hips, plant the hands. Inhale, sometimes we call this a halfway lift. So a halfway lift here, extend your spine out away from your tailbone. Exhale, refold, plant your hands, and step your right foot back into a lunge position. Feel free to adjust your feet. Make sure your left knee isn't going past your ankle. And if it feels better, you can also lower your right knee down to the mat and try to extend and present your chest forward. And just pause here, noticing what's arising, centering yourself back into the creation of the world and that feeling of gratitude. Retuck your right toes, lift your right knee, and then step your right foot forward to meet your left. Exhale, fold. With your next inhale, left foot steps back into a lunge. Readjust your feet, make sure that your right knee is above your right ankle. And again, if it feels better to lower your left knee, feel free. Hands on mat. Present your chest forward, roll shoulders back. And take a few breaths here. Sometimes we move so quickly through our day, our routine, our exercise, that we don't take time to really pause in the moment and notice what's coming up. And this is where you can be so beneficial to just allow you to feel sensation without judgment. Retuck your left toes, lift your left knee, and inhale, step. Maybe take a few steps to bring your left foot forward to meet your right. And on your inhale, rise all the way up to stand. Lift the arms above the head. Exhale, hands to heart. Bring your hands to your hips. And then I'll invite you to bring your weight into your left foot. Lift your right heel off the mat. Maybe even start to lift your right knee up, hip height. And then slowly step as gracefully as you can. Step your right foot back, landing in a pretty wide stance where your front heel is in line with your back arch. So you might need to creep your foot forward or step a little bit back. Sometimes you don't land where we intend to, and that's okay. And then I invite you to bend your front knee. So for me, it's my left knee. So bend it so that the knee is tracking over the toes, rolling slightly outward. And then if you'd like, you can extend your arms forward and back. And we're in Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. On your next inhale, straighten your legs and lift your arms up over your head. Exhale, sink back down, maybe a little bit deeper than the first time. Inhale, straighten and lift. Exhale, come back down. Keeping the legs where they are, flip your front palm and inhale, take a reverse warrior. So I really think of this as an exaltation, kind of a celebratory, joyous pose. And then exhale, come back to your warrior 2, bring your hands to your hips. Then we're going to gracefully step back to the front of our mat. And we'll repeat that on the other side. So I'm going to go to the opposite side of my mat so you can see me. Bring your weight into your right foot this time. Lift your left heel. Maybe you stay here, or maybe you want to play with some balance because nobody can see you. We're on Zoom and your cameras are off. So if you fall, you just get back up. You can watch me wiggle and wobble. And then once you maybe have some balance or you just want to get out of this pose, you can step back and find your warrior 2 stance on the opposite side. So again, front heel is in line with the back arch. And you can widen or narrow the stance to your kind of sensation. Bend into the right knee or the front knee, making sure that the knee continues to track over the toes, rolling slightly outward, and extend your arms. And take a breath here, just noticing what you notice. On your inhale, straighten legs as you lift arms up. Exhale, bend back down. Inhale, lift and extend. Exhale, sink back down. And then flip your front palm, keeping the legs as is, and inhale. Come into reverse warrior, exalted warrior. Maybe a place where you can really shout, thank you. And then slowly come back, warrior 2. Bring your hands to your hips and then straighten that front leg. Turn your toes to face the long edge of your mat and try to make sure that your heels are in line with one another. Again, rooting into your feet, really feeling that connection to the floor, to the earth, to creation. And inhale, roll the shoulders back. On your exhale, hinge forward from your hips. I like to keep my hands on my hip bones to feel that engagement. As you fold forward, you can bend your knees if you need to, so that you can place your hands on the mat. And it might feel good to just rock from side to side, bending into one knee and then the other, shifting weight from side to side. And then come back to center. Bring your left hand underneath your face. And as you inhale, lift your right arm up to the sky into a twist. And I invite you here to keep your gaze on the floor. This will provide a little more grounding sensation, which is the kind of what I'm trying to invoke here. The sense of grounding of foundation, of home. And then bring your right hand down, bring your right hand underneath your face as you inhale, lift your left arm up, twisting gently into your spine. And exhale, release. Fold here for a breath or two. And then slowly bring your hands to your hips, press into feet as you inhale all the way up. Step back to the top of your mat. Turn your toes out, your heels in. Hands come to heart center. And then slowly start to sink down as far as you can into a yogi squat or malasana. So it might be here, or you might be able to lower the hips Bring the elbows to the insides of the knees. You might even just want to come to a chair, the legs out, and find your squat like this. I'm a big fan of using the tools that are around you, improvising with furniture, letting other things support you. So take a breath or two wherever you are. This is one of the most grounding poses you can find in the asana practice. Right, and then bring your hands down to the floor. Slowly lift your hips, turn your toes back to face forward. And then I'll invite you to step back and lower your knees, bringing big toes to touch, knees out wide, and sink your hips back to child's pose. So in child's pose, you can extend your arms forward, maybe bring forehead to the mat. And if being on your knees does not feel good, you can always roll onto your back and bring your knees into your chest. Very similar action, very similar energy. Take another breath wherever you are. And then slowly walk your hands back to your knees and roll over your feet into a seat. And bring the soles of your feet together into Baddha Konasana. And the feet can be close to you if that feels good, or they can be far away and more of a diamond shape. And you can grab onto your shins, ankles, or wrap your hands around your toes. And if this feels good, you can stay here, or I invite you to exhale and fold. Lovely. Slowly come back up. Keep your left, my left, maybe your right knee bent, and bring the sole of the foot either to the inner thigh or to the knee. And extend, this is my right foot, away from your body into Janu Sirsasana. And root down into your hips for a second, just feeling again that groundedness, that support. Inhale the arms up. Turn your torso to face your extended leg. And as you exhale, start to hinge forward. And reach your arms as far as they can go. Maybe it's to your knee. Maybe you can grab your toes. Maybe it feels good to put a little bend in the knee. And just kind of release yourself over the thigh. And as you fold, again, attuning to that sensation of gratitude for creation and reviewing your day in relationship to that. Slowly come back up. And we'll switch legs. So extending, I'm going to extend my left leg and bend my right foot in. The foot can come to the inner thigh or the knee or even the thigh or the calf if that feels better. Once again, grounding, inhale. Turn your torso to face the long leg and exhale, fold. Knowing that you can modify like you did on the first side, maybe one side feels differently than the other. It's important that you don't put yourself in a place of pain and only go to the depth that you feel comfortable with. Where did you notice beauty? Slowly come back up. And then you can bring both soles of your feet onto your mat. You might need to scooch forward. Knees are bent. And grab your shins and slowly roll yourself all the way down into your back. And just pausing here, maybe let your knees drop from side to side. Maybe the palms extend out to the sides, palms facing upward in the gesture of openness and gratitude. And then I'll invite you to just drop your knees over to the right for a recline twist. Arms extend out from the shoulders. Your gaze can go in any direction that feels good. And as you rest here, having reviewed your day up until this point, start to think about how you can take what you've become aware of and move forward. How can you bring a greater sense of awe and gratitude for creation throughout your day? Lifting the knees, and then let them drop over to the left side. Every moment is an opportunity to begin again. And then coming back to center. Bend your knees, bring them into your chest, give yourself a hug, and you can stay here, or you can open the feet a little wider, and you can grab behind your knees, maybe your ankles, or maybe you can reach up and grab the outsides of your feet in a happy baby. And this is a pose that you can find stillness in, or maybe it feels good to just gently rock, feeling the earth below you as it massages your spine. Connecting to that beginning we all started from, which is infancy, childhood. And perhaps the wonder and awe that they saw looking up at the sky for the first time. Noticing birds and flowers for the first time. And then when you're ready, you can slowly release your feet down. And then bring the soles of your feet together into a Supta Baddha Konasana recline bound angle pose. And this is where we'll rest for a few moments in our Shavasana. If this does not feel comfortable, you're welcome to extend your legs or bend your knees. And if you'd like to bring any sort of cushions or padding to support you on the floor, feel free. We'll just take a few minutes to just rest here. Opening yourself up to whatever arises. Start to bring some movement back into your fingers and your toes, deepening your breath, blinking your eyes open. And when you're ready, I invite you to roll up into a comfortable seat. And before we move into our small groups, I'll end our practice together with a Mary Oliver poem, who is somebody who really is able to see the gifts of creation in such a beautiful way. So this poem is called My Work is Loving the World. My work is loving the world. Here are the sunflowers, they are the hummingbird, equal seekers of sweetness. Here the quickening yeast, there the blue plums. Here the clam deep in the speckled sand. Are my boots old? Is my coat torn? Am I no longer young and still not half perfect? Let me keep my mind on what matters, which is my work, which is mostly standing still and learning to be astonished. The phoebe, the delphinium, the sheep in the pasture, and the pasture, which is mostly rejoicing since all ingredients are here, which is gratitude, to be given a mind and a heart in these body clothes, a mouth with which to give shouts of joy to the moth and the wren, to the sleepy dug-up clam, telling them all over and over how it is that we live forever. Bring hands to heart center. Take a gentle bow. And thank you all for joining me today.